Good afternoon, good morning. How are you? Welcome. This is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show. And I hope you're all doing well and had a wonderful weekend wherever you are. I hope the sun is shining bright upon you, and you're raring to go with us today because I am with you. Got lots of things to talk about and share. And before we introduce our guest, I would love to say hello to Amnan.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm
You
good.
look marvelous.
Do I?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, because I am in pain a little bit, but I'm doing good. I have a little arthritis today, but I'm handling it really, really
You,
well.
I'm.
Thank you.
I wouldn't
Thanks.
be able to tell.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I just got back from a beautiful trip. I live in North Carolina. I just got back from a beautiful trip to from New Jersey, where I got to celebrate my mother and my aunt's 90th birthday. And for all of you out there, it was just an amazing experience to see my mother and my aunt, who are twins, celebrate their 90th birthday. So go on my Facebook page, Marilyn Lipman Shannon, you'll find me, and just look at all the pictures of my mother, my aunt, my cousins, my grandchildren, my grandnieces, nephew, my all of our family was together, and it was just a beautiful celebration. And these are two remarkable women. My cousin and I actually pranced my mother and my aunt through the restaurant when the cake came out, and we started singing, and the people saw it, and the people were asking, well, what's going on? And we said, well, it's their 90th birthday. People were like in shock, because if you see my mother and my aunt, you just will never believe they're 90. So it was just a beautiful experience, and I am in the afterglow of all the love that I was surrounded with and a part of, and that's a whole nother show. So anyway, thank you all for letting me share, because it's really been exciting. Today we have a lovely, lovely show, and as always, we're here to serve you. We're here to bring forth all the best information we can, the portals to freedom, the door, the window, the slit, the whatever it is. We're here to bring it to you. And as always, you are more than welcome any point in time during this show to call in. If you have a landline, cell phone, whatever it is, 919-518-9773. Or if you have access to Skype and you would like to join us on Skype Voice, you can do that as well. And that's computers 2, that's the number 2, K Voice. You can call us from wherever you are in the world. We'd love to have you partake. And also, if you notice underneath the window where the chat is, you can, underneath our window, there's a chat. And if you put your name on the little line that says nickname, you can join us and ask questions and enjoy the show from that perspective as well. So today, our guest, I have to say, Chris, who works with me, had the opportunity to speak to Michele Mekel last week, and she said, oh my God, you're just going to love this woman. I just love talking to her, and you're going to love having her on the show. So for those of you that have watched us before, you know how we do it. And for those of you who haven't, our show is about freedom. In a nutshell, it's about talking about it, sharing it. How can we do it? How do we break free from this? How do we learn something so that we can shed a little over here? And we bring people on that have wonderful stories, techniques, strategies, tools, experiences, permission, whatever it looks like. We'd love to bring people here who will help each and every one of us become freer and freer and freer. And today's guest is going to do that. She traveled a traditional conservative route, so to speak, and then she found her calling. She found her spiritual path, and she has made some shifts, which, when you think about it, a lot of us tend to do, want to do, have done, would like to do, can do, but maybe haven't done yet. So we're going to bring on Michele, and we're going to ask her to tell us some things about herself and why she is such an interesting guest. So Michele, welcome.
Greetings, Marilyn, and congratulations. You clearly come from a fabulous line of terrific, strong women. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I really do. And it's I haven't even processed it all yet, Michele, but I am going to process it. And it's been, because how many times, in our lives you get to watch your mother turn 90, and she's quite glamorous and lovely, and people look at her and go, huh? and she's a twin. And they look at both of them and go, huh? Huh? So anyway, I'm going to process it, and I'll bring you all whatever I figure out, because that's what I tend to do. So Michele, who are you? And what is it about you that is so breaking free?
So I'm an eclectic with a gypsy soul. I started out on a really traditional path and fully embraced that path and completely capable of that path, but realized there's a heck of a lot more to life, a lot more juiciness to life. And so I just started opening up to those other aspects, and then realized part of my soul path was to help bring that forward, show people it can be done, you don't have to be afraid of doing it, and maybe encourage them a little bit on their path as to how to do it and give them some support in doing so.
So your traditional path was,
So I was an attorney.
and
I
you say
trained as
that
an
you kind of
attorney.
whispered it.
Oh, sorry. Yes, no, I was an attorney, and I own that. So I was an attorney. In fact, I was a law professor. That's how structured of an attorney and invested in the system I am and I was. And I still teach law. In addition, I'm also an energetic path work assistant. So I help people find their spiritual path, tap into their energetic aspects, and help them be aligned in how those things can work together and move them forward as to what they should be sharing with the world, what their soul purpose is.
So were you always, or did you always recognize that you had this thing about you, this energetic, this kind of different thing, or did you not notice it and you just followed a path that you thought was yours?
So when I was really small, I was very tapped into it. I would have these out of body experiences, and I was very creative. And I was sort of encouraged to do that, but also to follow a more traditional, more academic aspect. And so I did that because I thought that's what we should do, while still personally holding on to these other spiritual, energetic components.
And where were you brought up, Michele?
So the Champaign-Urbana, Illinois area, Danville, Illinois,
Yeah.
right in the middle of central Illinois.
And what is that area like? What was it like growing up there?
So it's a fairly small area. The area when I was there was about 40,000 people in terms of Danville, and the broader area was probably about 100,000 people. It was on the border of Illinois and Indiana, and it was very much a blue-collar, traditional kind of place.
And so when you were growing up, did you feel different?
Yes, I definitely felt different for a few reasons. One, because of who I who I am at a soul level, but also I was raised in a family that was Jewish.
You were
And in
raised by
fact,
what? Say that again.
in a family that was Jewish. We practiced the Jewish faith, and in that area, there was a very small community. It was a very small community, probably about 30 families at most, and very few children. Oh, pardon me, I'm losing the microphone here. There we go. So it was different in many ways.
Can you hear us? Are you
Yes,
back?
I can.
Okay, good. So you had all these things going on that were different. So, and along the way, you noticed that you had something else going on. What was the
Yes.
first indication that you had something else happening?
So I would have out-of-body experiences right at that place of falling asleep. And at first they were kind of scary, but then they became terrific adventures and escapes. I would have these sort of invisible friends that everyone else couldn't see, and that was okay. And I was very into art. So I knew I was slightly different, but in a kind of magical, wonderful way.
Yeah. And did you have some role model or anybody that you could discuss this with?
No, the household in which I grew up was more, that's lovely, that's terrific, that goes to your creative side, but now let's focus on something more earth plane.
Okay. All right. So you follow this path of this traditional law, right? What kind of law did you do? Did you practice?
So I didn't practice in the
Okay.
traditional sense. I started by being a healthcare administrator, and I was
Uh,
in health insurance of all things, the big bad empire, so to speak. I went to law school. I got a master's of business administration, a master's of healthcare administration, went on to clerk at the Missouri Supreme Court, went on to get a Fulbright fellowship and study health policy in terms of the Canadian system versus the US system, came back and ran bioethics institutes, got into the traditional law teaching academy.
so did you deny along the way who this other part of yourself? Did you just kind of like, okay, that's nice, but I can't go there? I mean, what did you do?
It was hard because I felt like I was living on two tracks at the same time.
Michelle,
And
do you
one,
need to fix your ear thing?
there we go.
Okay.
How is that?
That's
Is
good.
that better?
Yeah. Is that
There we
good?
go.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
it
good.
feels like it's falling out, so yes.
Okay, you're good. Go ahead.
Great. So I felt like I was living on these two tracks at the same time, and one had to take sort of a back seat to the other. So I continued my trainings and my meditation practices and my spiritual practices, but they weren't front and center, and they weren't out there.
Hmm.
I didn't feel like I could put them directly out there.
I know a lot of people must feel that way, don't you think? Where you feel like you have one foot on one side of the fence and you have another foot on the other side of the fence, and in some parts of the fence we haven't gotten permission to put both feet there.
Exactly. And you can only walk that way for so long, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's like which part of the fence do I belong on now? What was that? That's tough, isn't it?
Yes, and you feel like you're being disingenuous in both aspects.
Mhm. So did you felt like you weren't a good attorney or a good clerk or a good what when you were doing
So
it?
I felt like I was doing the work at a great level, but that I wasn't putting my soul into it in a way that I could be. Because perhaps my soul wasn't fully invested in that path. In a way where I could share all aspects of me and bring them forward.
Do you believe, and I know that you still teach now, so do
Yes.
you believe that you can do, I mean, I want to say a um, traditional type of work, but I don't know what really makes something traditional. By whose rule is that?
Exactly. I think traditional, we look at this hierarchical expectation, this very solid, non moving viewpoint, right?
Right?
And I think you can do something quote unquote traditional, but maybe you make it yours. You do it in your way. You put all of your juiciness into it. And you don't hide aspects of yourself.
Yeah, I think this notion of something that's traditional is so it seems so not me or not you. But honestly, what makes it me or you? It's me or you.
Right. Exactly.
Right, right. So we've taken these traditional roles and we think that they're supposed to be a certain way by the word traditional, right?
Yes.
So tell us what happened in your life. Tell us how it started to look.
So I felt like I couldn't be myself in all aspects. We all have an image of what, for example, a law professor looks like, or sounds like, or does. The suit, the straight hair. I used to straighten my hair, and I'm now owning these wild ringlets, but I used to straighten it to fit. I used to cover all of my ink to fit. And I used to basically accept all of the strictures. And then finally I said, why am I doing that? I'm not showing my students that you can be different, you can be you, and you can be a success. And so then I just started letting me out of the box, letting me out of the closet, letting me out in all ways. And I saw that people responded to that a lot better. The earbuds are fixing to kill
Oh,
me.
yeah, go ahead. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
The earbuds are fixing to kill me.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks for playing with them.
no problem.
So we have a question. I want to go back to some of what you said, but we have a question from Chris, who said that she wants to know what your email signature means, and I may not be pronouncing it correctly, but it's Alice Voila Propri. What does that mean, and how do you say it?
Alice vola propria. It means she flies with her own wings, and I adopted that.
Can you say that? Can you say that one more time and a little louder?
It means she flies with her own wings,
Uh-huh.
and I adopted that because I think that embodies me. I stopped relying on a system. I stopped relying on others. I stopped relying on how others expected me to be, and I just let me fly according to me.
So tell me, what was the turning point, or the breaking point, or the not the breaking point, the break free point that you came out of the closet and you said, "This is who I am, and I'm gonna," and I don't know. I'd like to know how you put the two together, but this is who I am, and you flew. What was that moment?
That moment occurred when I was dissatisfied in my job at the time. I was a traditional tenure track law professor at a state university. I was unhappy there. I was unwelcome there. And I had an opportunity to go teach bioethics, which is something I love, and public health in Bangladesh at an all-women's university.
Oh, wow.
And I saw that email, and the minute I saw it, I said, I'm going. I got on that plane. I went there for 4 months, and something shifted. I came to realize, I had this environment in which I came to realize what was important and what was not. And we all have a limited time. People who go to bed tonight and don't wake up tomorrow, I'm sure, had plans for that tomorrow. And I didn't want to be one of those people. And I just opened up and recognized I need to live every day authentically as me in all ways. I need to put my gifts into the world and offer them up. The gifts that were not traditional, like teaching law. The gifts that were like doing energy work. The gifts that were reading tarot. The gifts that were counseling people on an energetic path work for their own highest good. And I said, I'm going to put that out there because I'm not going to get a chance any other time. And I came back. And I walked away from the golden handcuffs, the tenure track position, this, state job that is yours if you make the cut. And I said, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to put out my own shingle.
So before Bangladesh, you said that you weren't wanted where you were. Why was that?
I think people are afraid of what doesn't look like them, what doesn't feel like them, what doesn't believe as they do. And that's okay, because that, for me, was a giant gift.
That's a big deal. I mean, to notice that and not take it personally like I'm doing something wrong. I'm just being me. And there's nothing wrong with being me. I just have to go where me is welcomed.
Or I have to make that space where me is welcome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's a very good point. So explain that, because that's an excellent point.
So instead of existing small, I thought, why am I doing this? So I said, okay, I'm going to walk away from this. So what do I have to offer to the world? Well, I'm an excellent writer. I'm an excellent researcher. I'm an excellent editor. And I've got these energetic gifts as well. And I'm a great teacher. So let me carve out a space in the world that allows me to bring all of those gifts forward with joy. And so you just start finding, you look for opportunities, and then you create opportunities. You hang out your own shingle. You create arrangements that allow you to shine. If that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And what do you think, what would you suggest to people who are listening? What is it that they need from the inside? Or what do they have to draw upon to be able to say, I'm a doctor, but I want to practice homeopathy. Or I'm a teacher, but I'm this. Or I'm in the elementary school and I want to be this. I mean, how do you, I'm in a corporate environment, I'm a CEO, but I don't buy into this stuff. What do you tell somebody that's in that area of their life and they want to make a change? What is it the thing? What do they have to find, go to, what to create that?
So the first thing is tapping into that passion, like you described. They know they're in this box, but they have a passion in either a adjacent box or a box that's perhaps 3 bubbles off. So number 1, know that passion. Number 2, get training in that passion. Form a community that shares that passion. And then start doing things like creating a resume that reflects that passion. Start looking into where that community lives and who taps into that community. Create a website. Make business cards. Know who you are. And are you really passionate about it? Offer your services up. See what the response is. Take those steps incrementally, one at a time, and pretty soon you look back and you're all the way out there.
So I think that's really, really very simple, practical, and very good advice. Because when you think about it, if you start to own it, there won't be any turning back from it, right? I mean, if you own it, go ahead, say it.
Yeah, because it takes you, your passion starts leading you. And before you know it, you're out there.
Right.
And you look back and you're like, wow. And you look down and you're like, this is totally okay. It's better than okay.
Right. So you want to immerse yourself, submerge yourself into that world. And you don't even have to tell anybody what you're doing if you don't want to, until you're powerful, feel the power enough from what it is that propels you to go forward.
You are exactly right. That's exactly it.
It's interesting. I'm in the process of writing some books, a series of books on peace and conflict. And I had a thing happen last week, a personal story that I decided, I've been looking for the first book, which was the first relationship I was going to write about. Well, as it turns out, I'm going to write about a personal relationship to me. And I'm reading Stephen King, a book on Stephen King about writing. And he was saying, you just really need to write all the time. You may not consider yourself a writer, which I don't. But when I submerge myself into writing, I'm going to be a writer. Exactly. Then all the tricks and the tools and the things you start to observe start to make sense. And it starts to build this platform for us to be who that person is. Right? Would you say?
Exactly. Because you intuit the tools, you own the tools become yours, and pretty soon you start defining yourself as that.
Exactly. So I want to just encourage anyone who's out there that would like to call in. If you have a question, you have a comment, statement, whatever it is, 919-518-9773, or you can communicate with us via Skype. That's going to come in on audio, and that's computers, plural, the number 2K voice. And don't forget that you can also chat with us in our chat right next to the video of Michele and I, and we'd love to hear you there as well. So Michele, now that you have brought it home, how long have you been doing what you're doing and owning it?
So it's been about 2.5, 3 years.
Oh,
and
okay.
again, it started with these small steps. And then I just fully found myself, I'm in this, and I'm happy.
So you're still teaching, and how do they like you there?
The kids, the students, they're not kids, they're professional graduate students. They love me. I respond to them. It's tremendous energy exchange in that classroom, whether it be online or in person. They have a passion for a particular area that I teach in. I have that passion, and I can share alternative viewpoints in some of those areas, such as bioethics opens itself up. And I allow them the freedom to do that as well in those spaces.
So you actually encompass in your training, you bring in the energetics in your teaching?
So, for example, when you talk about bioethics and law in the healthcare arena, you can start talking about alternative providers, alternative medical practices, healthcare practices. You can talk about licensure issues. You can talk about standards of care. You can talk about all of those things. And you can talk about what is accepted presently, what is not accepted, and how the law might move, how policy might move.
Wow. I'm not an attorney, but I sure would love to sit on one of those classes.
And they're fun. And that is also my rule for the classroom. If we are not having fun, we are doing it wrong.
Yeah, really. So has being this energetic being and being so you read tarot cards, right? What else do you
Yes.
do?
I practice Reiki and healing touch, which are modalities that deal
Yes.
with the energy body.
Yes.
I do some numerology. I do meditation coaching, and I teach various other types of energetic practices. People often are interested or curious about moon magic. I also have shamanic training, so I do shamanic practices.
So now, are you able to do this and I know you said you teach. So with what you're doing, how do you blend it into the legal profession? I mean, could you see yourself practicing law and blending these two areas together? And what would that look like?
So I totally think that it can be done with the way law is moving today. In fact, I just read an article on a Wall Street Journal blog that talked about how attorneys are so dissatisfied with the practice and with their lives.
Hmm.
And they're starting to look to things such as yoga and meditation and Tai Chi and other practices that look at wholeness and sort of bring them back into a state of wholeness. So I do think that it's completely possible to have a legal practice and to engage in these other things, such as be Reiki master, such as be meditation trainer, such as be yoga teacher.
So, I mean, I would like to think, and I do believe, as I, became a Superior Court mediator many years ago, and, for a mediator as myself, one of the things that we practice is coming from the heart, right? And I have seen attorneys come from the heart, and I've seen attorneys coming from the head.
And
And
there's a difference, right?
huge. And I think in any profession, if you can add that spiritual standpoint, the heart, not be afraid of it, or the knowing that there's more out here than the limitations that we place on ourselves, I think it could make a huge difference, right?
Absolutely. And I think that we could insert any profession in that, in terms of medical professionals coming from the head versus coming from the heart, in terms of finance professionals coming from the head versus coming from the heart. Anyone, and as you said, any profession and their clients benefit from the person who can blend that, as you have said perfectly.
Yeah. So let's talk about the spiritual path. For you, how would you describe that spiritual path, and not just yours, but a spiritual path in general and spirituality?
I think that it is not necessarily what we're raised with. It's not what we're born into. We have to look at where we have those moments of oneness, whether it's being out in nature, whether it's a particular aspect or packaging of the divine. We have to ask ourselves, where do we resonate? Where do we feel that click? Once we identify that, we can start exploring that path moving forward. And then in making that part of your everyday existence. The divine is not supposed to be something that is up there on a pedestal, something that we visit once or twice or 3 times a year or only on Sundays. It should be part of our everyday.
We have a couple of questions on the chat that I want to ask you. So Jenny says, she asked me if we could ask you this question. Have you met others like you that embrace the energetics coming from a highly professional, stuffy field?
They're out there everywhere, and it's fabulous. And I have met a number of them. I've met a number of professors who have looked into this after they've retired because they didn't feel like they could while they were still engaged. I've met a couple of attorneys who are and who have opened up to this. They're out there everywhere. I've met physicians who've done this. In particular, that is powerful because they bring that to their patients.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we need to know more about this, and people certainly, need to. Well, not, it's great if people will speak up, right, and say, "This is who I am." I'm assuming you do that.
Yes, and for a lot of people, that's hard because they feel like they'll be shunned, or they feel like they won't get referrals, or they feel like they will have complaints, or that their client base or their patient base will evaporate, or that they won't fit into the, for lack of a better term, old boys club any longer.
Mhm. So how do you? There's somebody else on here, and I'm trying. This is I don't. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm not sure if I am. Skill good, and you said you don't want to miss the program. Okay, I can. I disagree that I can practice happily. It's too toxic for most. What would you say to somebody who feels that way?
It absolutely can be. And then it becomes a question of the area of practice. Perhaps it needs to shift to more of a mediation practice. Or perhaps it's a matter of finding like minded individuals who engage in a firm type setting and they reinforce each other in that respect. But it can be extremely toxic, and that's why the levels of dissatisfaction with law are what they are. We have tremendous levels of alcoholism. Again, I would argue because people are unhappy, and other substance abuse issues. We have all of this aggression which has come into the practice.
Yeah, I think mediation is a wonderful because nobody can really tell you what to do. And actually, they tried to tell me what to do, and I left doing what they tried to tell me to do because I wasn't going to be told in a neutral setting what I can and cannot do. But you certainly have more opportunities in there, and I would imagine maybe there's some things in family law, and there's other, but I have to believe that there are spiritual people wherever we turn who are hiding it too, right?
Absolutely.
And that's probably what's making them so sick.
And the more of us who step out, the more we give others permission to do so too, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we just have to be. I mean, what are we fearing by stepping out, Michelle?
I think we're fearing judgment. I think we're fearing rejection. I
Hmm.
think we're fearing interference with a stream of prosperity, for example. We're definitely fearing security
Hmm.
or the loss thereof.
So what do we say to someone, or what would you say? And this is in any field. This is anybody doing anything. I don't care what it is. It could be you're in a bakery, handing out baked goods. I mean, people are scared for some. What are we scared about? I'm sitting here. I'm thinking, what are we scared about?
We're scared of being other. I think that in society, we want to be accepted, we want to be part, we don't want to be on the outside, we don't want to be shunned, we don't want to be excluded, we don't want to be judged.
Mm.
But those are all externals. The happiness has to come from inside, and we have to develop that place of this other judgment is outside, it doesn't impact me.
Mhm. So, keeping that in mind, there's many of you, I'm sure, that are saying, "Are you serious?" Or, "Oh yeah, I know that to be a fact," or whatever you're saying. I can well understand both sides of the desk. And I think one of the things that we're saying is when you step your foot, step a toe into this world, little by little, you will find your like-minded friends. You'll find your way. And I think personally you have to realize what is most important to you. Is it staying, undercover, or is it owning who you are and breathing?
And you will find that it's not as scary as it originally felt like, for the reasons that you just said, Marilyn, because it feels so good to be authentically you, that those other things start paling in comparison.
So you chose to leave the job you were at when you went to Bangladesh.
I chose to leave. I went for the summer to Bangladesh, and I chose to leave when I came back officially.
And so then you found another job, right? You
So
found another job teaching.
I created other jobs. So I'm still actually teaching on an adjunct basis, a per class basis, at the university that I was teaching at full time. I just applied and said, hey, if you guys still want these classes offered or this class offered, I'm happy to do it, but just on this other basis.
That's
And
terrific.
of course,
And
much
that's what?
much less remuneration,
Uh-huh.
much less stability, but that's okay, because then you find other things. Like, you go out there and you create other opportunities. You seek out, hey, I want to take this particular editing gig, or I want to take this writing gig as well, and then I want to put my other services out there, and clients will come.
Absolutely. Well, here is Jenny's asking. Jenny, thank you so much. You're asking great questions. And so is Skillgood. I mean, I really appreciate your partaking in this. And I welcome anybody who has any questions at all, because these are really good ones. So Jenny wants to know another question. A lawyer knows how to regulate a practice in order to protect the public. Is there a need to regulate energy and path work, especially if it involves serious health issues or physical laying of hands?
Yes. So I think that anyone who engages in the energetic, it's a matter of how they portray this. I think you cannot and you should not ever portray that you're doing healing work, physical healing work. You need to also know, if a client needs that, you need to say, hey, you need to go get actual medical assistance. It could be physical, it could be mental. Again, you do not represent that you're doing any legal representation, financial representation. Rather, you're helping them connect with something inside them. And to that extent, I don't think that we need tremendous licensure. But I do think that if we start bleeding over into these other areas, not only do we need licensure, but that's not okay.
Right. So regardless of whether you are an attorney, a spiritual being, it doesn't matter whoever you are, there are still some lines and there's still the law,
Right.
right? But
Right.
there's still ways of working with this. So what is it that what are we applying to the legal profession if we are an energetic being and we're owning the fact that we can do magic, or that we can transcend and we can meditate and we can do all these things? How are we in our practice? How does that change? Who are we in our practice?
So we're all still here in Earth School, right, on Earth plane. And so we are providing somebody with a service that's part of the entire circle of wholeness. It's just one aspect of them, one part of them, one pie wedge, if you will, that we are helping them in, and we need to ensure that they're getting assistance in all other pie wedges as well, and that they understand they need to do so.
That's terrific. So let me ask you a question. So of the law students that you work, how many of them are they coming to you because they are spiritual? Are they coming to you because how many of them get done with your class and they go, yes, I found my calling? I mean, what is that like?
Right, and so I'm not up there at the lectern or in the discussion sort of promoting a particular aspect. But what I'm asking them to do instead is look at their internal compass. So in bioethics, for example, we begin class by talking about the compass and all of the directions and subdirections that make up the bioethical compass. Among them are things such as upbringing and religion and spirituality and professionalism and education, etc., etc. And I'm asking them then to tap into their own compass and think about what directions, cardinal and otherwise, tell them who they are. And so I think it brings them steps forward on who they are, what they believe. It also brings them steps forward on opening up to what others believe.
So I see somebody is trying to get in on the phone. If you are trying to call us or you're trying to Skype, oh, she's in. Does she have can I talk to her now? Oh, okay, I didn't hear her. Hello.
Hello?
Yes. Hi. Welcome.
Oh, I didn't realize that I was live. Hi. I've missed so much of the program because I'm on phone and not on computer, so I had to drop out of the online portion to try the Skype, to try the phone, and I, apologize because I don't know, what chunks I missed. But I'm a practicing lawyer, and I'm also a light worker, and I'm also from Indiana.
Do you know?
So
Did you know?
Michele and I should connect.
Do you know
I work
Michele? Did you know Michele before?
I do not.
Okay.
And we may be relatively of different ages too. My birthday is actually coming up. I'll be 53, so that's my age category. But I practice real estate, and is my area. But I did civil litigation when I practiced in Indiana. I'm actually in Raleigh now and have been for 17 years. So, my experience. It was a pretty interesting wake-up call last August for me. And I do not have imaginary friends, as Michele indicated earlier. I've always been extremely creative. I have great imagination and all of that. Also, like Michele, although not raised in a Jewish tradition, I was raised in a Scot-Irish tradition, which is almost as oppressive in terms of doing things that are practical.
Right.
And, so my family had a lot to do with making choices that, for profession, that made sense. My dad had me take accounting classes in college. God, I can't even imagine how awful that was.
Yeah.
But
so what happened? What happened to you that you said you had this experience?
Yeah, it's a real long story, but essentially, I identified that I was receiving message, which I didn't really take in before. Like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I just all of a sudden had this knowing that my grandmother was going to die.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't occur to me that that was coming from somewhere. It just occurred to me that just somehow I knew that. I'm intuitive, you know? It didn't occur to me that that was message.
So are you having a complicated time blending your creative, energetic side with your professional side?
I'm actually getting out.
Okay.
So I have gone through the path of, I did some life coaching. We all know as light workers, first mission is to learn self-love.
Right.
And in that process of learning the self-love, and finding life purpose, because that's part of self-love, you start to shed the things you need to shed. And so I'm actually separating from my husband and leaving my law practice, which, by the way, I practice with my husband.
You practice what? I'm sorry, I missed that last piece.
I practice with my husband.
Oh, you practice.
As well. We're law partners. So, and this is the path I have to take. I wasn't raised in a Christian household, but I embraced that as a young adult. And then actually through like a born-again thing. Mm-hmm. And then I eventually, embraced the Catholic Church, which is quite interesting that I would do that. But I actually also, there are things that you reflect on that you just say, why didn't I honor that and understand that at an earlier age? I was in law school, and the Blessed Mother appeared to me. I mean, how much more in your face can it be? I was in an airport in Dallas
Well, you know what?
And
But I'll tell you something. It's not just law or anything, as I said earlier. You know, I remember when I saw color, I thought everybody saw color. I didn't know that I saw color and it was unique. I just thought, there's a burst of purple sometimes, or oh, there's a little red, or oh my God, there's a little green over somebody's head. I didn't know anything, and I'm still not, really, 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 really like concerned with it or whatever. I just know that everybody doesn't see it. But I really honor you for taking such leaps forward, and it's regardless of what you do, what your profession is. You're changing your whole life.
I've always had an innate sense of having mission. So there's always been something that I've known I've got mission. And I always said if my husband would die, I'd probably become cloistered or something.
Well, let me ask you something. Are you going to continue practicing law?
No, I'm getting out.
Okay.
I've already signed my partnership over to him and dissolving because we're actually selling our family home, which will give me some give me a lot of financial freedom to spend some time getting ready for what's next. But what I'm supposed to do is production work. I mean, when I went back to the nuts and bolts of who I am, what I've done over my lifetime, voluntary-wise, what I had energy behind, what I did when I was 4 years old, which was really instructive, I realized I put on production. That's who I am.
You said production?
Correct. That's, special events, my degree, my undergraduate degrees in TV and radio. I'm a professional musician. I work in 2 bands locally. So, and, I do all the promotion work and the special event coordination.
I see. Well, do you think that, and Michele is back with us too. Hi, Michele. We have a lovely lady on the phone who is she was a practicing attorney, or
well, I am a practicing lawyer.
She's
I have current file work, yeah. I'm trying to right end of summer. I'm not really taking new files unless I have.
Wait, I'm losing you. I need to hear you a little bit louder.
I said I still have file work. I'm terminating it except for things that I know are very short term.
Right.
Coming in. One of the comments I would make that Michele said, because she hasn't practiced just from a perspective of a practicing lawyer, is I don't know that it really is possible unless you're doing something really like mediation work, or even then. I'm not sure it's really possible unless you just have, an etheric layer or a steel to do the work and not have it, keep your energy low or bring you just too much toxicity, is what I call it. It's very toxic work.
Right.
And I had to, one of the things I've done personally is I had my friend who is an intuitive said, your heart's like a jawbreaker. There's lots and lots of layers of hard candy around it. And I built up over the years, this hard layer on my heart, which thankfully, I've been able to break through. But it's not an easy place to be, to have that open love, that heart, and be in this profession. It's just the nature of the profession, causes you to have that candy coating or a thick skin or whatever.
So you think, and this is very interesting, so I appreciate you bringing this up. So you think that in order to be in this profession, you can't stay in your heart?
Ultimately, yes. I think that would be a true statement. Now, there are probably people who are very special, who are light workers, who, through their evolution, somehow really have the ability to be completely zen, if you know what I mean, to be completely detached.
Right.
If you had a Buddhist monk ability, and mentality, and we're able to completely detach and know how to keep ego out, then you could probably do it.
Michele, hold on a minute. Don't go anywhere. Skill good, right? Is that am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, that's what I use as
Okay,
my
good.
statement.
So, Michele, do you think you can be a light worker and still be in law?
I think you can, but I think
Okay,
if it's
I can't hear her. Yeah.
I think you can, but as she has said, it's extremely challenging, and you have to practice in an area that is perhaps non-traditional, something that is your passion, maybe policy work or mediation, as we've talked about. In addition, it's a huge test in bringing the practice off of the pillow into the world, right?
Hmm.
So we talk about meditation practice, but our ultimate goal is to walk that when we have these challenges. It would be extremely hard. You're not going to have a success every day. You might have a couple successes a week, but the other thing is self care, getting
Right.
self care, knowing when you need self care, and managing where you are, having these constant check ins with yourself. I think it would be tremendously challenging. I think it can be done. I think there's a narrow frequency or bandwidth in which it can be done, perhaps, because of where the profession has gone.
I have, recently completed the Eckhart Tolle book, A New Earth, and the end of the book, I wish he spent more time
Wait, which book? I'm sorry,
with
I didn't hear that.
Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, yeah,
A New
Power Now. Okay.
So he gets finally to where I wanted to be at the end of the book, and he talks about three states to live in, and to try and be in those three states always. And the middle state's the one that you want to find yourself in most of the time, which is enjoyment. And so there's acceptance, enjoyment, and enthusiasm. So enthusiasm is when we're really working in our passion. Enjoyment is just, well, I don't have to explain it to all of you. So I just think that it would be, what Michele says, at least for me, I don't have it and don't want to spend the energy to try and continue to do the work I've been doing and find a way to make it enjoyable. I'm going to be much better off following my life's path. And I also have message that that's exactly what I'm supposed to do. In fact, they got me out of my practice before, and that was more important than getting me out of my house.
You know what? I love what you're talking about, because really and truly, I mean, so we all have like a purpose or a mission or a piece of a mission or a piece of a purpose that we're meant to live in this life. And there will be people like you, Skill Good, who are meant to have been there for a while and leave, do something else, take the knowledge that you have from where you've come from, utilize it somewhere else, and do something else. And whoever you were during the time that you were working and in real estate, I am sure you did some incredible things, and you were in a way that was incredible, that made a difference to a lot of people that you touched, regardless of how you owned it or not. And then there are people who, like Michele, are up in front of a room. Maybe they're teaching. They're bringing some of this energy into the words they choose, the phrases they say, the bigness of their container, and they do it their way. Then there are people who I am sure who are practicing law every day, who don't tell anybody anything. They just are doing it in whatever way they can, and they're doing it. And then they go home and they meditate and they pray and they do their thing. And then there are people who go into law who are still in conflict with themselves. And then there are people who, we need you all. We need you all to show the paths, and that there are different paths. And I see Michele shaking her head. Michele.
So everybody is exactly where they're supposed to
Yep.
be, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
everybody has their own light to shine into the world. And Skill Good, first of all, congratulations. it's scary, but sometimes the universe knocks, and then it knocks a little harder, and then it breaks down the door, right?
Yeah, well, my mother and I have this discussion about, like, if you don't pay attention, it's going to make the decision for you.
That's
And
right.
and the truth of the matter is that the work has been falling off the last couple of years. And, the pressure has been building to make it even less comfortable, less enjoyable over the years, because I deal with banking institutions in my everyday life. And that has become much more difficult as well.
Well, I have to interrupt because we're almost out of time, honestly.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, but it's been wonderful that you've called in.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Please
you.
continue with the program, and if I'd love to network with Michele. So if I'd be happy to provide my contact information offline.
You know what you can do, if you like, you can email me directly if you want, and I'll forward it to her, or, we can work it through, or you can leave it in the chat and we'll pick it up there, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
And your email is available?
Marilyn at MarilynShannon.com. And Michele can
Okay.
tell you how to reach her too. How did you hear about the show, by the way?
I'm on the Wake meetup group.
Okay, Wake for Consciousness. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, terrific. Well, Michele she's going to give all of her information now, and I would love to hear how this connection goes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, Michele, tell us who you are and what they'll find and why they should find you there.
Marilyn, so I can be found at ShaktiEnergetics.com, www.shakti-energetics.com, and you can find me on Facebook under Shakti Energetics as well. And there are resources as well as pathwork opportunities.
Wow,
So
this was fast.
yes, Marilyn.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to Amnon. Thank you for putting up with the technological difficulties. And thank you to all of the souls out there who are listening, who are engaging, to Skillgood, to Jenny, all of you guys.
Yes. And I want to thank you, Michele, so much for opening up and sharing. This was a very, very fast show. And I want to thank Jenny and Skillgood and everybody on the chat for joining in. This is a great conversation, one I'd love to start up again and take it in another direction. So if you have a conversation like this in your heart of hearts and you want to bring it up, this is great, because how will other attorneys know? How will other light workers know? How will other energy beings know? There are plenty of people in conflict, but they're holding true to who they are. And so we want to be able to share and expose all of this. So thank you so much, Michele, for being here. You have been.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And we don't care about the technical things. It happens. So with that, everyone, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Have a wonderful week, wonderful time ahead. And as I started off the show, I just came back from a wonderful time celebrating my mother's 90th birthday. So please go to my Facebook page, Marilyn Lippman Shannon, and you will see all of my mother's pictures, my aunt's pictures, and comment. Just send me a little message. Send my mom a little message. She would love, love, love to hear about it. Michele, what is your final words in closing?
Everyone needs to follow their bliss. If you do that, you can't go wrong.
And who said that?
That is actually a Campbell quote, a Joseph Campbell quote.
Yeah, I've heard
and I have
it
it tattooed on my foot for that reason.
On your foot?
Because every step I take should be in that direction.
That is extraordinary. And every time you step down, you think of that you're stepping into your bliss.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So today and going forward, I think that's a wonderful message that we all should be conscious of. Step into your bliss. We often talk about on this show our freedom steps. So each time you step today, take that freedom step into your bliss. And we will see you all next week. Thanks so much for being here. And I love you all. Bye.
Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.